Hi, my loves. My name is Maria. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a spiritual teacher. I am also a podcaster and an author, so I do a lot. I wanted to give you context for what you're all about to see, because unless if you're unprepared, it may come across as very strange. Also, I know I have Christmas lights in January, and they're a little crazy. And please bear with me because who doesn't love Christmas lights? And also, they're just joyful lights, if you ask me. Anyhow, so just a quick context on the video that you're about to see. I essentially just recorded the video of me recording the podcast. Now, my podcast is a channeled experience. I recorded from a state of trance, which essentially is, the way I get there is through self-hypnosis. So I generally channel my podcast with my eyes fully closed, and I generally use like a face mask for something like that. I don't even think I have it here, but it's like an ugly face mask that I got on an international flight at one point, and I've just been using it for my podcast. Now, obviously, for the video, I decided to use sunglasses, so hence I'm wearing sunglasses. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy the podcast. It is really important information about the portal of 2-2 that is up and coming. And let me know what you think in the comments. And yes, I am completely weird. I talk to spirit. I look strange as I am recording videos as I talk to spirit. And sometimes I have to wear glasses because I frankly don't even know what I look like when my eyes are twitching. My eyes are probably twitching when I'm channeling, like who knows? Oh my God, can I just also share something? I wanted to understand how other channels channel because I was like, I totally don't know how others do it. And some people channel with their eyes closed and some people channel with their eyes open. Just for context, when I channel with my eyes open, I can do it, but my connection is not as strong. And also, the reason I don't always do that is because the information sometimes comes through visually. And now my third eye is always open, but when my eyes are closed, the depth of the image that comes through is actually a lot better. And so I see the intricacies of how energy moves a lot better when my eyes are closed. So in other words, if I tried to channel with my eyes open, I'd maybe get 60% of the connection that I would with my eyes closed. Did you totally see the spirit right now? It was just like a white spirit that just went over. And oh my God, it is such a blessing. They're totally like, my guys are like, oh my God, we're with you. So I guess I'm posting this. Despite the fact that I think I look like a weird creep. But you know what? Here's the deal. One day I think I'm gonna, as I'm developing my connection, because I generally channel from my higher self. I don't channel from anybody else on my podcast. So one day I'm fully committed to being able to just have my eyes open and channel with my eyes open and not lose one iota of that connection. Until that happens, I'm gonna look like a little weirdo in those videos that are gonna be of the podcast. But I hope you look beyond that into the actual content because I'm really doing this for the message and not for anything else. I'm sending you, I'm not even saying goodbye to you. We're going straight to the podcast and I hope you enjoy that. Let me know what you think. Bye. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with My Higher Self. I am happy to see all of you. This is going to be a fun one, probably a short one as well. I wasn't planning on recording this episode, but per usual, I'm in the flow, and I felt called to talk to you about cosmic alignment and specifically portals today. So this one I think is going to be on the shorter side compared to our normal episodes, but we'll also take it one step at a time. So we'll see. Anyhow, so here's what we're talking about today. Here's the topic that I wanted to discuss with you. We're going to talk about the cosmic portal of February 2nd, 2022. Essentially, it's 2/2/2022, which is ridiculous because we are about to go through a cosmic portal with 5 twos, right? Essentially, the energy of the two is just going to come fair and square. Now, for those of you that have listened to my episode about year 2022, you guys know that I believe this to be the year of cosmic returns. This is what I saw as I examined the collective. This is what a lot of you are going to be going through, most of you are going to be going through in 2022. Now, a year is a long time. It is a very volatile period, right? So despite the fact that the entirety of 2022 is the year of karmic returns, there are certain portals or days within that time frame that have a special imprint or significance. And so I figured sometimes I would do this impromptu podcasts for you, appearances for you, and we're going to talk through about what's coming up for the collective. So in a few days, we're going to be in February, and we're going to be going through the energy of 2-2, the portal. Very often, now, let me rewind really quickly. Let's talk about the energy of cosmic portals. Obviously, we all know that as humanity, and even as planet Earth, right, we don't exist in a vacuum. We exist as part of the larger ecosystem, cosmic ecosystem, if you will. And so a lot of things, both, in our immediate cosmic vicinity, as well as our general cosmic vicinity, really impact our energies and what we're going through on a daily basis. Now, today we're talking about the portal of 2-2. I will tell you this. Obviously, as we're looking at cosmic portals, one thing you may wonder is, hey, how come that if we're measuring time, right, and we know that time is a very arbitrary concept, it's essentially something that is a great illusion of the matrix, right? If we're measuring time in a very arbitrary way, right, just the fact that now is the year 2022 is a very arbitrary number, right? That at one point, someone, and we're not going to get into the detail, decided to essentially start from zero, right? And, after Christ, everything was year 1, 2, 3, etc., right? So essentially, somebody came in and changed the divine numerology completely. So you may arguably ask me, Maria, how could you possibly interpret something that is in year 2022 from the position of divine numerology? Whereas technically speaking, we could have been measuring this as a year 7,000 something something or 6,000 something something. Could have been any other number, frankly. I will tell you this. When collective consciousness of humanity agrees to something, right? So there is an agreement in ether, if you will, around the fact that we're going to measure a particular year as 2022. There's also, on top of that, by the way, the collective agreement that there are 365 days in a year. There are 24, hours in a day. Although arguably, yes, I know, sun comes up every day at the same time, but some things are more arbitrary than others, right? Which is why they can get the length of the year right, because it's, once every 4 years, everything, everything needs to be readjusted, right? So just because there is a collective human agreement around how we're going to measure this time-space reality, the reason those portals, these cosmic portals that we're going to discuss today are so potent is because there is a collective agreement that yes, indeed, the energy of this day should be measured as 1-1 or 2-2 or whatever is the date today. Essentially, if humanity did not have an agreement around what year it is right now, what day of the month it is, what month it is, if humanity did not have an agreement around the numerology of this time-space reality, we would not be experiencing these cosmic portals. However, that is not the case. Humanity, broadly speaking, or a large chunk of humanity, recognizes that this is the year 2022, which means that there is a lot of alignment around how the energies flow within planet Earth and the solar system even, because planet Earth obviously impacts the solar system, which is why it's almost like because there is an agreement at the level of humanity is starting to attract and align with particular energy streams from the larger universe. That is why these cosmic portals even exist, and that is why they're so potent. Now, I know there are many different ways to align with energies that are bigger than yourself. New moon, full moon is something that a lot of people do. Equinoxes and solstices is something that a lot of people do. Celebrating New Year is what a lot of people do. Holidays is in the same way. You're aligning your energy, your intention, your activity, your rituals, right? According to a particular place on the calendar, right? Now, I do find that certain portals maybe get a lot more attention in the spiritual community. Lionsgate, for instance, 8-8 being one such portal. I love Lionsgate. We're not talking about Lionsgate right now. I know 12-12 and 11-11, November 11th and December 12th, are getting a lot of love. I'm not necessarily seeing that happen for 2-2. So I figured would start shifting that paradigm, because the energies over 2-2 are really, really powerful. If you know me, I am a big proponent of humanity coming back into its feminine aspect, right? I believe we live in a largely masculine world, just as a refresher, specifically on planet Earth, right? And as, essentially the next part of our journey as humanity is to level up and bring in the heart energies and bring in the divine feminine energies. That is precisely why I love the portal of 2-2. Now, we're gonna take some time, a few minutes, for me to walk you through the numerology of that portal. Now, there are many ways actually to look at the numeric frequencies of anything, right? Both the numbers that represent something, as well as the geometric shapes that represent something, are essentially an extension of the blueprint of the architect of the matrix, or the creator, essentially source energy, right? Which is why we can look at the manifestation, or like what those symbols or blueprints are pointing us towards, and actually know exactly what the intention for something is, right? Because there is a method to the madness of how the matrix was created. And if we're only able to decode what certain things mean, our life would be a lot more aligned, arguably with making a lot fewer mistakes. It would be a lot easier for us to just walk our paths in full synchronicity with the rest of the universe, right? Now, I will give you maybe a little bit of a glimpse, a little bit of a behind the scenes of how I interpret a portal, because I can obviously tell you, kind of like at face value what the energies of the portal are, but I find it a lot more fascinating to be able to show you and share with you what I'm actually seeing, so that you could gain insight and start interpreting numbers and numerical frequencies in your own life. Anytime we're interpreting a date from the numerological standpoint, we have to look at the actual day, right? The numerology of the day. We have to consider the numerology of the month. We have to consider the collective numerology of the day and the month. Then we have to separately consider the numerology of the year. And then we have to consider all of these numbers, the whole sequence, as one integral whole, and see and watch what are the new facets that come through as we're looking at the whole. So that is essentially how we're going to approach this number. Obviously, we're looking at a lot of the energy of number 2. So let's start from scratch, right? We're talking about the second day of the second month, 2 and 2. If I look at this individually, that already tells me this is a massive, massive, massive divine feminine portal. So if you look at, if you think about the divine numerology, right? Starting with 0. There's 0, there's 1, and there's 2. Maybe let me take you a little bit through those numbers. 0 in divine numerology is a number of Great Mother, Divine Mother, however you want to call her, the female face of God, the female face of Source. That represents the great void, or chaos energies, if you will, the black void of which everything comes, right? So this is unmanifested reality. This could also be thought of and regarded as antimatter. This is the womb space of the Divine Mother. In other words, The energy of 0 generally represents something that is in a state of fertile soil, but it hasn't been fully manifested, it hasn't been given shape and form yet. So that is the energy of the 0. The energy of the 1 is complete divine masculine. Oneness, one source, direction, pointed arrow, we're going from point A to point B, etc. Like so, inspired action. That's all energy of 1. Energy of 2 is actually, we're going back to divine feminine again. So we went from the energies of 0 to the energies of the 2. The reason I'm telling you all this is this. If any of you know tarot cards or love tarot cards, one of the better ways to understand tarot, and specifically I'm talking about the major arcana, although the minor arcana as well, is to understand this as a journey of a being, right? Or the journey of the Fool, right? Because the Fool is your card 0. And essentially, what are the transitions that they have to go through to get from card 1 to 2 to 3 and, down to card 22. The best way to fully feel into those energies is to actually integrate card by card by card by card. Divine numerology and how you would want to study divine numerology is not that different. I recommend if you kind of like if you would like to go deep and start seeing what I'm seeing and maybe even more things, is you would have to allot a few days for each number as you're just getting started with divine numerology, right? So you would want to first get present to the energy of 0, right? You may want to draw it, you may want to meditate on it, you may want to align yourself with objects and correspondences to that frequency, right? Before you can fully feel into the energy of the void. The energy of the void is a very, very nurturing energy, but it's also very fertile. Yeah, the best way to describe it is the fertile soil, right? Any seed you drop, any seed of intention you drop into that fertile soil, it's going to grow and flourish. So that is the energy of 0. The reason I'm telling you this, and the reason I told you all about, how you would even think about the major arcana of tarot, is not because I wanted to go on a tangent, but because I want you to think of divine numerology as a journey. And I want you to not think of these numbers in isolation, because they actually tell a story of progression of energy, right? So that is why, in order for you to understand energy of the number 2, you first have to understand energy of the number 0. Then you're going to have to understand energy of number 1. And only then you can start coming full circle to the energy of number 2. So energy of number 2, although it is divine feminine, and energy of number 0 is also divine feminine, those are very, very different energies. Energy of number 2 is about the dichotomy. So it's about relationships also, right? So essentially the energy of the 2 is there is me and then there is the world around me, or there is me and there is my partner, there is me and there is my friend, there is me and there is my foe, there is me and there is my colleague, there is me and there is my mother. You know what I mean? So all these relationships, essentially you start learning relationships once you graduate into the energy of the 2. Because what happens before it is 1, right? 1 is very masculine. And again, it's a progression. First there was nothing, and that is the void, right? Then there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, right? Quoting the Bible. Getting major points for this, from those that care. So the Word, or the logos, is an incredibly masculine energy. What is that the energy of? That is the energy of manifestation. So 1 is the number of manifestation. 1 is the number of divine masculine. 1 is also actually the number of ego and the number of identity. Because once you get out of the nothingness, the absence of stuff, you start getting into the identity zone, right? So, when arguably, right, when you split yourself as an individual consciousness from the greater whole of source energies, that is that first point in time when you realize that you're separate from the entirety of everything that is, you're faced with the fact of having to perceive yourself as, or like faced with the question essentially of who am I? What am I? What makes me different from the entirety of everything else, right? So that's why it's the number of identity. But number one is all about me, myself, and I, right? Essentially, it's this feeling of separation is so fresh and new that you quite literally didn't have time enough to think about everything else that's surrounding you. That has not been a consideration yet. That happens later. Here in this moment in time, the numerology and the essence of number one is how can I know myself? How can I understand what makes me special, what makes me different, what my skill set is, the entirety of who I am? That exploration is all about number one, which also is why number one is the number of desire and why it is the number of manifestation. Because at first you need to realize that you have a desire around something, you want to create something or you want to manifest something for it to actually become reality, right? And one way to get to know yourself is actually through understanding what it is that you love. Now we're moving on. The next step here. The next step is we're moving away from the masculinity into the feminine energy, that the first feminine energy that I would consider to be embodied. So the energy of zero is not embodied. It is what happens before the form and shape, the great void, the great everything, also the great nothing. Whereas the energy of the two is the female energy that has understood who it is, right? But more than that, right? It is that masculine energy of one and trying to understand itself that has graduated to the next step and all of a sudden understood that it does not exist in a vacuum, right? That it may have been split out from source consciousness, but so were other beings, right? And so it actually becomes fascinated, this energy becomes fascinated with learning everything about everything, right? And that is where you get into relationships. That is where you get into communities. That is where you get into neighborhoods and just essentially relationships. And I don't even mean with people, but what is your relationships to things? What is your relationship to self? What is your relationship to the things that you love and hate? To places, to events, to countries? Do you know what I mean, right? Like, essentially, what am I in relationship to the other? Am I a good being in relationship to another? And that's where you start passing judgment on yourself. Am I a good daughter? Am I a good son? I don't know. Like, am I a good friend? And all of those things like live here. There are the energy of the two. It's that dichotomy. It's that like me versus them, but not necessarily in an antagonistic way at all, because the energies of the divine feminine are very nurturing, right? And that is another thing. If the energy of one is the mind, the energy of two is the heart. Very much so, right? Because that first one, the energy of one, right, is trying to comprehend. So a lot of it is cerebral, right? A lot of it is learning and studying and understanding and intellectualizing and comparing potentially, right? And with the female, the energy of the two, you've graduated and moved on. And by the way, nothing that I say here, please don't take that as me saying that there is anything about the energy of the one that is inferior to the energy of the two. That is not at all the message here. Every number, every frequency is meant to be. None of them, neither of them, is better than the rest. So it's not like we're all trying to get somewhere. No, actually the beauty is in following the journey. The journey itself is what matters. The journey itself is what has value, not necessarily, calling favorites. So going back to the energy of the two, that is where the heart starts to open up. This is where your energies of love are. Giving and receiving is right here. This is where your energy of nurturing and compassion is. This is where your energy of listening is instead of just talking, right? Talking is one, listening is two, right? Because in order to listen, you actually have to have folks around you, right? So again, it's very communal. And it is the first number that has to consider other, right? Zero doesn't have to consider other because nothing has been manifested yet. One doesn't have to consider other because it first has to start with itself, right? They say if you want to save the world, save yourself first. Two is the first energy that has to contend with other as a concept, right? So that is the energy of the two. Beautiful divine feminine energy. So the reason I told you all of this is because I hope that that is going to open up your perception and understanding to how we're going to interpret this portal. So portal 2-2 is a wonderful portal of divine feminine energies. So not only are the energies of femininity accentuated, if you're willing to receive them, if your body is able and primed to receive those feminine energies, you can receive them. In other words, anything that you would associate with the energies of the mother, like a motherly qualities of a woman, you could get from the universe during the day of February 2nd. For instance, if you require nurturing, if you require being held, if you require being forgiven, if you require being comforted, being understood, being validated, being loved for who you are, those are amazing energies for the portal of 2-2, because that is literally like the divine mother coming into your space, wanting to provide value to you in that day the way she only knows how. Now, obviously you can connect with the divine mother any day of the week, any year, in perpetuity until the end of time. However, there just tend to be certain portals where it's easier to do and when the energies that are coming through are so much more potent. And 2-2 just happens to be one of those days. Okay, do you remember how I told you have to look at the energies of the day and the energies of the month, and then you get to combine them? So the next layer that we're going to look at from numerology is going to be the number 4 energy, because I added 2 and 2 of the month and of the day. That's how I get the energy of the 4. The energy of the 4, and unfortunately in this particular episode, we're not going to have the time to go one by one about each energy, because otherwise we'd be here for 7 hours and about 43 minutes, which I'm sure you have other things to do today. So we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of you understanding every single number. This is not what this is all about. However, the energies of the 4, and this is where, I have to use my discernment as well. There are many aspects of the energy of the 4. It is a very stable energy because it's a square essentially, right? So it has 4 points. One thing I will tell you as it relates to this particular day is it's the day to help build foundations. So that is the perfect day to start helping, to get help actually, or help yourself build better foundations for the future. The energy of the 4 in this particular case, the one that's coming up for us in a few days, is the energy of being called to address the foundations. Now, whatever those foundations are is going to be different for each of you. It could be the foundation of your relationship. It could be the foundation of your work. It could be the foundation of your health, the foundation of your friendships or relationships, whatever are the ones that are important to you, the foundation of your family, whatever is that foundation that you're currently working on. If there is a crack in that foundation, the energy of 2-2 is a perfect frequency for you to address the foundations. Now, also, sometimes certain foundations are shaky. Wouldn't you agree? On certain foundations, and we may not even realize it, certain foundations are actually not meant to withstand the external circumstances so that the house can be built on top of it. So also be ready that in or around that portal, and generally the portal is not just one day, you guys. The portal is 7 days before and 7 days after for the period of 2 weeks. You may have certain foundational things happen to you. Certain almost like karmic things come through that either shake up the foundation or solidify the foundation. So be ready and actually start paying attention, right? Start understanding the synchronicities of your life, right? They're not random, right? Again, within this very charged karmic year, we're getting this energy of foundations that need to be set and foundations that need to be addressed. A lot of them are going to be around relationships. In other words, If somebody wants to leave you during this period of time, you got to let them go. If somebody wants to come into your life, perhaps it is a new foundation that you're meant to be building. So really pay attention to this 14-day time frame, because it's all going to be about foundations, and that is the energy of the 4. And my favorite is bringing it all together. Now I want you to almost imagine the sequence of numbers of 2, 2, day, month, and then the year, 2022. Essentially, hey, all of it is Divine Mother. Divine Mother said, I'm going to give you these numbers, right, to signify a date. And I'm going to fill most of that frequency with the number 2. But I'm also going to give you zeros. Do you guys know that 22 is actually 0202? Really? I mean, if you think about it, right? And then our year 2022 has 1 0. So essentially, we're going into 3 zeros. 3 zeros, right, is the energy of the void in a triangle. So it's the void that wants to manifest itself, if that makes any sense. The energy of the triangle is also the energy of manifestation, just as a geometric shape, right? The energy of triangle is actually different energies coming together to be able to create a solid enough structure that you can bring something from the realm of nothingness to the current manifested reality. So what does this tell me? This tells me that it's essentially the void tripled, which means that during the portal of 2-2, it is incredibly lucrative to plant your seeds and your intentions, more so than the new moon, right? Because how often do we get a portal with only zeros and 2s? Like freaking never, right? So because you're essentially what the commitment of 3 zeros is the commitment from the Divine Mother, that she's listening to whatever you're going through at this point in time, and whatever seeds you're planting during this 14-day time frame, she is going to help you and assist you. But also be really, really careful, because when I say what seeds are you planting, we're not always intentional with the things that we're planting, right? If you are going to get yourself or allow yourself to get into a negative space, mental, emotional, doesn't really matter, right? These are the seeds that you're planting during this period of time. So just be mindful of what you're planting, right? Check in with yourself. Get some awareness. Get present to what you're planting. And better yet, become intentional and plant the things you actually want to come to fruition in your life, instead of, just randomly birthing things just because you were thinking a particular thought randomly. Do you know what I mean? So it's an incredibly fertile period. It is a period where literally, whether you'd like it or not, your intentions are going to be heard by the universe and the Divine Mother herself. So those seeds are going to be planted. And you're going to start getting sprouts. Not right away. Sprouts may take longer, because Divine Feminine, by the way, never rushes anything, right? I don't know if you guys noticed. But the Divine Feminine energy does not like to be constrained by timelines, timetables, deadlines, KPIs, goals, any of that nonsense. So if you are trusting the Divine Mother or Divine Feminine energies to help you with nurturing and catering to your seeds, the absolute last thing that you should be doing is worrying, putting constraints on the Divine Mother, having certain expectations around timelines, or any of that nonsense. You're going to have to let that go, right? So if you're planting the seeds during this 2-week period, you're going to have to get really good at letting them go and letting go of your attachments to results, because that is the best way the Divine Mother can work with you on that. So let's go back to our string of numbers, right? As we're interpreting them together. So not only do we have 3 zeros, we have 5, we have number 2 essentially repeated 5 times. We have 5 number 2s, which is like, oh my God, amazing, right? So 5, right, is another Divine Feminine number, which is like, what? Like essentially all of the best Divine Feminine numbers are coming through on this portal. Like it blows my freaking mind, right? How much you could be doing with this portal. 5 is the energy of planet Venus, who is actually the divine feminine curator for Gaia right now for planet Earth, right? So she is the teacher and the curator. So this is also a great time for you to be learning new skills. This is a great time for you to be getting back into balance and harmony, because 5 also represents cosmic harmony and balance. 5 also stands for joy, actually. The joy of creation, the joy of starting new things, right? So all of these energies are becoming prevalent as well. However, let's look at 5 twos, right? So not only is that the energy, it's actually a really, really big energy of the swan. So 5 twos, there are correspondences to everything in numerology. 5 twos actually symbolizes the energy of the swan. The swan is, in a lot of cultures, if you have a mother goddess, very often the mother goddess is going to have the swan as one of her symbols, as one of the totem animals, if you will, right? So actually working with the energy of the white swan, or having the white swan as like a picture or a screensaver, could be incredibly lucrative and could help you anchor divine feminine energies, divine mother energies for the period of those 2 weeks incredibly well. So pay attention to the swan. If you, for any reason, come across white swan, whether reading or I don't know, in nature during this 2-week time frame, know that this is the greatest blessing from the divine mother. That she literally is almost like stretching her hands out to you and is noticing you, and is, that is how you know you're perfectly aligned and you are essentially being guided as well as rewarded by the divine mother, right? So pay attention to the white swan. But as we're looking at these 5 twos, we're going to have to add them up together, and what we get is number 10. 10 is 1 and 0, right? The first 2 numbers. But 10 in numerology is the number of completion. So we're coming full circle. Enough of you are finishing a cycle without even realizing it. And it could be multiple cycles. But so the beauty of 5 twos coming into 10 is that this time that we're finishing the cycle, it is a very gentle easing out of something. It's a very gentle release of something. And so if I were to sum up the energy of 2-2 that we're going to come into, like this particular portal, we're going, I would say it's actually all about the gentle release or the gentle completion. If I absolutely had to put 1 or 2 words on that portal, I would put probably gentle completion. Now, what do I mean by gentle completion? There are certain things that end in your life, and the ending is abrupt. For those of you that are familiar with tarot cards, again, this is your tower moment, right? It's kind of like when you get blindsided and completely out of the blue, something happens. It could be anything. I don't know, not to give you any bad ideas or program you for anything. Your husband leaves you, you get a health diagnosis out of nowhere, your house burns down, not to be morbid or anything. That is not the energy of that day at all. Because tower moment is an abrupt cancellation of something. It's like something that you're like deer in the headlights, you totally did not expect. That is not the energy of the gentle completion of the cycle. The gentle completion is something that has been ending, or has not been serving you, or maybe is not fully aligned, or is maybe not fully making you happy, but somehow you're just holding on to it because maybe it was cozy, or maybe it was like familiar, or what have you, and you just didn't feel empowered to let go of whatever that is. This coming portal 2-2 is perfect portal, perfect timing for you to actually make it happen. It's an incredible time for you to release and let go consciously. There are 2 energies that are going to help you release. The energy of the earth and the energy of the water. Again, going back to the divine mother, because this is an incredibly divine feminine portal. Here is like a quick ritual for you if you want to release something during 2-2. If you do it at 2 p.m. or 2 a.m., you guys, are going to be my freaking heroes, because that is yet another two. But honestly, anytime you do that ritual, you're good. You would need a bowl of water, right? So we're working with the energies of the water. You're going to need a bowl of water, and you're going to need a pebble or a crystal. However, I probably recommend a pebble over a crystal, something you just found on the street, because this is something you're going to have to release into the wild, so to say. This is something you're going to have to give back to nature, right? So you probably don't want to use your fanciest crystal that costs you $300 for this exercise. I'm just saying. Now, the world's your oyster. You do what you want to do. You have free will, obviously. So get a pebble or like a little stone. And, as you're doing this ritual, generally for the rituals, I, encourage you to light a candle. If you want like full-on release, or full-on, completion, and you feel like energetically you need to let something go, I recommend lighting a black candle, because black candle is good for a lot of things, but it's amazing for release. And so you would hold the little pebble in the left palm of your hand with your right over it. It's kind of like this. And you'd close your eyes and you would focus on the energy of this pebble. And you would want you to focus on the situation that you're trying to release. Whatever that is. A pattern, a relationship, an energy, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you feel like it is time for you to complete the cycle or time for you to release. I want you to imagine that pebble is holding on to that energy, right? And then in front of you, you should have a bowl of crystal water. And I said crystal water. You guys were like, what is crystal water? Actually, crystal clear water is what I meant, just like transparent water. It doesn't have to be charged. Although if you truly wanted to charge it, you could charge it with the energies of amethyst, for instance, by just placing an amethyst there prior to the ritual. Amethyst is really good. What else am I getting? Crystal quartz is really good for this one. Rose quartz is going to be fine as well. So you want to infuse it with those divine feminine energies. And so essentially then you would take your pebble and you would, essentially have an intention to release that. And you would ask Divine Mother for assistance with releasing this thing that you're ready to release. And I want you to drop the pebble into the water, like let it sink to the bottom of the bowl, right? And as you're watching that pebble sink, take a few deep breaths and imagine that just like the pebble is releasing that situation into the water of the bowl, imagine that with every exhale, your physical body is releasing that old pattern. Very often, if you're releasing something, I'm assuming this is not something that serves you. So on an energetic, etheric on an energetic level, you're going to be able to see darkness leaving your body. So darkness or some, almost like dust, like gray dust, like leaving your body. So you just want to allow that process to happen naturally, right? And so essentially you would want to stay here for some time, really releasing, right? And then when you feel like you're ready, you want to thank the Divine Mother for her assistance. And then essentially you want to dump the water and the pebble outside in nature. Now, if you're living in the city, go to the park or something, ideally. I know it's not like amazing. Now, do you have to carry the water in the bowl? No, absolutely not. You can transfer the water to the water bottle and just, use maybe like, you don't necessarily want to touch the pebble because the pebble is going to be like that symbol of the energy you want to release. So you maybe want to fish it out with a spoon or something and place that in like a paper envelope or something where there's going to be paper between your hand and the actual pebble, right? And then when you get outside, you obviously don't want to discard a piece of paper just on the street. That's not what I'm advocating for. You would like gently unwrap your pebble and just throw it out, right? And just like ideally you would throw it out into the ground. You can even bury it, like into the ground, meaning into the soil, into the earth, right? Because again, we're working with the energies of the Mother Earth and the water. And then you would also pour out the water. And you can even pour out the water on top of the pebble, kind of like just so everything is fully released. And then you would just like essentially experience you would feel an energetic shift when that happens. It's kind of like closing a door and something. And yeah, this is quite a powerful ritual as well. So just a quick recap, right? So you definitely want to use this portal once again. You definitely want to use this portal to release things. You want to use this portal to be able to nurture yourself. That's another part of the energy of the two. Don't forget, you can give that nurturing to yourself or your body, or you can also get and ask for that nurturing from the Divine Mother. What do I mean by give that nurturing to yourself? Whatever your physical body wants and likes, you should do that for your physical body. Treat it. Obviously, it starts with knowing your physical body first and what does your physical body actually love. For that, I made an episode a long time ago, how to reconnect, or how to build a stronger connection with your physical body, I believe was the name of the episode. Go and listen to that. If you haven't, it's going to change your life. I'm not kidding. But treat yourself. What could be some examples? Make yourself a meal or buy yourself a meal that your body really, really loves without judging yourself for loving it. Take a bath if that feels good. Wear your fanciest piece of clothing if that feels good. Just spoil yourself during that day, because you really want to offer yourself the nurturing love and care that you would want from the most perfect mother in the world. But also, if you're lacking in some department, this is a day to ask Divine Mother for assistance, because that's when she's listening, right? And also allow yourself to be a divine child, because you can only be fully mothered if you're in your child archetype. Because if you're this strong adult that has everything figured out, there is no room for the Divine Mother to come and enter your space. So essentially, when you're like, this is what I want you to get present to. When you're in a place of, I know it all and I don't need help, which is what adulting is all about, you are repelling. So essentially, if your body was this ball of energy, this ball of energy would be repelling any type of help that's starting to come into your space, right? Now, even if Divine Mother wanted to come through and help you out, she couldn't, because you're actively repelling any type of help. So in order for you to start getting help during this portal, you need to get into your divine child archetype, right? How do you do that? Maybe through a meditation. There's not just one way. Some people already have divine child archetype activated, and that's amazing. But allowing yourself to be silly that day, and we're going to get back to the meditation really, really quickly. Allowing yourself to not take life too seriously. Allowing yourself to just play. Actually, whatever your version of play is, really allot some time for just play on 2-2. Don't be too serious. But I also actually find like this meditation where you would almost like get into a meditative state. And then I would want you to imagine that you are in the fetal position, like a little baby. And then I would want you to imagine that you're in the fetal position, but you're floating in a vast, vast, vast ocean. And you can imagine that ocean to be any color you want. And it's a very friendly ocean, because it is an ocean of the Divine Mother. And I want you to imagine that she is cuddling you, and it's almost like she's rocking you to sleep. And so you're in this fetal position. And I want you to feel the full surrender, where you know you can trust the waters of the ocean. Nothing is going to happen to you. And like just feel the release in all of your muscles. And you can even go like body part by body part, releasing and letting go of your need to control, and just dropping into your child and allowing yourself to savor that feeling and savor that emotion. So getting back to your divine child is extremely important. It's also going to be a very healing practice if you choose to do it on 2-2. And then anything that, again, whatever seeds you want to plant, just as a reminder, right, is something that is a really, really good time to do, right? Whether you want to journal and put your intentions down, whether you want to do a dream board, a vision board if you haven't yet, There's no, actually, what's coming through right now is Divine Mother also wants you to work on things and putting like at least one outrageous wish out there for her to take care of. Like if there's been one thing that has been so audacious that you haven't even put it on your vision board or dream board or what have you, you know, if there's been like this one desire of yours that you're really like not even fully acknowledging because it's so big, this is the perfect portal to acknowledge that this is what you want and to, you know, to set an intention of getting it, because that it would be literally planting the seeds with the Divine Mother. Divine Mother actually, in this particular case, acts with the aspect of manifestation where you don't have to lift a finger to get something. And while to truly manifest something, you're going to have to switch on your Divine Masculine and actually make the moves. The good news about the Divine Mother and her assistance with manifestation is she can help bring about the most outrageous, far-fetched things into your reality. Like, essentially, when you know how to get something, try to manifest with your masculine energies. When you have no clue of how to get from here to where you're trying to go, you know, you definitely want to leverage Divine Mother here. Okay, I think that's it. Let me see. I want to take maybe one question from the collective. Just wanted to make sure that whatever we went through was all clear, or if you guys have any questions remaining about the portal that's coming up, anything that's going to serve humanity at large, I'm here to receive the question. The question is there another way to release outside of the ritual that I've given? Essentially, are there other ways? Obviously. I mean, there's always, you know, there are 30 types of meditations probably for everything, at least, if not 30 million, right? Another way that you can do for releasing, which again, there is the releasing, and maybe let me explain my rationale. The easiest way to release generally is using the energy of fire, because when fire burns something, that thing is gone, right? So you could also essentially just write whatever things you want to release, and you can burn them using the candle or the flame of, you know, any other flame that you have handy. I will tell you, though, that in this particular instance, you want to work with the energies of the water. And that is why I was proposing the bowl. If you're living next to a natural body of water, though, there is another very, very easy practice where you can release with the water. Essentially, what you would just need to write down all things you want to release, and then you want to like make like a little bowl, like a little just essentially like wrinkle that paper into like a little bowl, and generally you would want to go by the river. Now, this is not something that I recommend doing too often, but also paper is organic. Like paper is going to eventually dissolve. Maybe not very fast, but you don't take like a big piece of paper. Take a small piece of paper, and you just want to go to the river, and because the river is flowing water, right? It essentially is really good with helping you release things, but also bring things to you, right? So that's the water energies are really, really good for that, from the river specifically. And so you would want to come by the river, by the bank of the river, and talk to the river, asking her for assistance with whatever you're trying to release. And then whenever you've made your request, you would just drop that piece of paper and watch the river carry it away, carry it wherever it needs to go, into another dimension if necessary. So that would be another way to release as well. I want to see if there's another question from the collective, anything that we've discussed about divine portals or anything else. I'm here to receive it. The question is essentially, you've described, this is how the question is being asked. Essentially, you've described all of these different numbers that are a part of this one grand energy, right? There's an energy of there's an energy of 2, 0, 4, and 5 are the numbers that I've mentioned. The question is, are all of these energies equal, or is are some numbers kind of like more prevalent, kind of like, how should we think about it? Now, of course, not all energies are created equal. This is essentially a portal of number 2, right? So generally, as you look at these dates, you want to see at how many times a particular number is being repeated. And whatever is the number that is being repeated the highest number of times, the highest amount of times, this is really the main energy. So here it's clearly, like, because 2 is everywhere here, it's really the portal of the energies of 2. The second one here is actually 0. 0 is the second strongest. The third strongest is the energy of 4. There's also the energy of 5, right? And then the last but not least is the energy of 10, which is actually really the energy of 1. But that is like really downstream there. So essentially, we need to factor in all of those numbers, but they're not all created equal. It's in the same time, like, do you guys know when you're like making food, the proportions of ingredients that you put in are quite different? And that's why you cannot say that the content of salt is the same as the content of water in the soup, for instance, because obviously there's more water in the soup than there is salt, or at least would hope that there is, right? And that's why soup is mostly water, not salt. So the energy of this portal is mostly 2 and not 1 or 5, right? So that is how you should interpret it. But by the way, thanks so much for the question. Really appreciate it. Okay, cool. Just really wanted to make this as quick as humanly possible without necessarily missing out on any of the details. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope that this was helpful. I hope you guys are super excited about 2-2, the portal. I hope you're really excited about the rituals and the energies that it brings. And I hope that you take advantage of it. And, I am giving you all a big virtual hug. I will see you in another episode.